Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I am good.
Hey, girl,
Let's
hey.
let's see here. So I always have to ask this because look here, I be on my roll. I be talking to folks, and they be like, "We can't hear." I look over at the chat, and I be like, "You can't hear nothing I've been saying for the last 5 minutes."
You should have stopped me sooner.
Right, like you should, and I guess they'd be like, "You should have read your chat sooner." So I need to make sure that folks can hear us,
Okay.
because we'll just be talking away and rambling, and then we have to go back and be like, I don't even know what I said to go back. So if you are listening to us, put a one if you can hear us. If you can't hear us, we gonna figure this out. We gonna find out because somebody eventually will say or type, "I can't hear you." So anybody, if you can hear us, put a two in the chat. Let's see. We gonna
And
find
you got a
out.
chat too? Oh my.
So we're gonna ask if they can hear us.
Okay.
Before we go ahead and jump into this. But I am so excited, ma'am. This is the first time you and I have been able to like talk about business. And hey, Dr. Young. Let's see. Dr. Young, can you hear us? I'm waiting for her to respond back. Yes, can hear. Okay. Yes, you
Good.
can hear us. Yes, ma'am. All right. We just want to make sure before we have a whole conversation. Y'all be like, what, who, how, when, and what? So
We
we
need
about
a
to get
sign.
into all. We need a sign. I probably should have a sign next time. Like,
For for ASL.
right. So we have not actually had a conversation specifically about you and your business. And I thought it was time for us to do this. So I am, you guys, Dr. Tanisha Guy. In case you are new to this video and this is your first time being introduced to me, I am a licensed professional counselor. I have been practicing in the mental health field now for 22 years. I am an author of 2 books, a speaker, and I coach therapists on this amazing journey into private practice. And so I could not be more excited to talk to you today, Miss Christia Rogers. And look here, ma'am, when I tell you, you are just absolutely so amazing and where
Thank
you have come and what you are doing. And so let's take them back, right? Because you're not somebody I just kind of like met last year. We kind of bumped into each other. So I need to make sure that folks, I just kind of like met last year. We kind of bumped into each other. So I need to make sure that folks, I got feedback.
I think that was me.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. You ready now? Okay.
Yes.
So introduce everyone. Who are you? What do you do? And we will start there and go backwards.
Okay. So I am Christia Rogers, master's in education, in counseling education, no doubt. So I got to teach this stuff. That's how I met Dr. Guy. It was way back when we were young.
I'm still
And
young. You talking about when we were young. I'm
when
still
we were
young,
young,
ma'am.
oh, that's me. So I'm getting older. But yeah, I started out as actually an athletic coach. So that's another backstory too. But started working with kids. I was a track and field coach, and I was working with a lot of kids, and they were needing more help than just on the field and the track. So I decided to go back to school. Got hooked up with Dr. Guy, and I haven't let her go yet. And she's like, "Get off, get away!" But she has been an excellent mentor to me. She has helped me through every facet of personal life, for life coaching, and then mentorship. for my practice, my private practice. And so here I am now, roughly, what did we say, 15 years later? Here I am, and I presently have now an IOP care. I call it a hybrid IOP care because, of course, during the pandemic, mental health doesn't stop just because everybody else was locked in the house. You still have issues. So that birthed the hybrid IOP for me, where virtually slash in person, and where we can accommodate people half day, either in morning so they can go back to work or so they can go back to school, or virtually. So either or. So there's some factors there. And of course, all of that comes from an assessment. So that's where I am, Register Crossroads Counseling and IOP Care.
I just love people that are just so humble. And I'm just little old me, just modest me. So let me go back, right? Because you said you have an IOP. For those people that do not work in the mental health field, an IOP is
an intensive out care patient program.
And now they know the name. So what is it?
So basically, it is a step down from inpatient. So, say for instance, you have to be inpatient for a while. The next step on your way to working to health is an outpatient program where you don't have to stay overnight, but you will get 8 hours of day treatment. So you'll have groups, you'll have psychoeducation, you'll have art therapy, music therapy, whatever their programming is, and you'll also see a psychiatrist. So my program is that next phase. This came and was birthed off of me working in a school district for 25 years. I know, right? So 25 years of seeing how they weren't doing it well enough. Let's put it that way. So our kids would go to these outpatient programs or inpatient programs. They come back and be re-traumatized because they expect them to do all the work that they were doing before. Just maybe a few weeks ago, they were ready to end their life. So there needed to be yet another phase to reacclimate a patient, client, student, adult to work or to school. There needed to be an in between, not just jumping from 8 hours here and 8 hours there. Totally different. So I came up with this product and programming where it would be more of a transition from that restrictive space to a more less restrictive.
So when you talk about having an IOP program, this intensive outpatient program, Jaco?
I'm actually joint commissioned from
Joint
the
commission.
national. I have.
You kind of left that part out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am nationally accredited with the Joint Commission peeps. I don't have the higher level of care where I have a psychiatrist, so I don't have to have that JCO hospital certification. I'm strictly just the outpatient, where we would do substance abuse, bipolar, anxiety, depression, that. So we don't have that higher level of care. We do not do any of the blood draws or or testing or anything like that. We are pure intensive outpatient.
Thank you for explaining that for the folks that may not be in the mental health field. So this is where you are today. You are the director, the CEO, the owner of Bridges to Crossroads Counseling LLC. Not only do you offer the IOP services, but you have a group of therapists, because you're not doing all this by yourself. You have a group of therapists that work at Bridges to Crossroads. Am I correct?
I do. Yes, I do. I have 8 therapists that work here, whether virtually or present in my office. We are accommodated for more small group. I don't like to do groups over 8 to 10 people because just yet another thing that I learned clinically, when you have so many people in those outpatient groups, things get overlooked. So I like smaller groups. So we keep them there. We have 1 to 2 therapists in there at all times. And then we also offer the pullout. So we also have where they'll have individual therapy according to their treatment plan. We do family sessions as well. And we accommodate in house 5 therapists. So we have plenty of space to accommodate those groups of 10, depending on where they lie throughout the day.
All right. So what I'm hearing you say is that you have this group practice that is now running also the IOP portion of it. And before you were a group practice, you were a solo practitioner.
Yes. Yes, I was. Yes. That's
So
very
we're
interesting.
about, we're about to talk about them beginnings, right? Because
Yeah.
first I just had to introduce, I had to let them know who I'm talking to and what she's doing, right? This isn't someone who says, I'm a business owner. You are a real business owner with a legitimate brick and mortar location. You have payroll, you have staff, you have therapists, you have a lot of responsibilities, right? But you didn't start here.
I did
So
not.
we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the way humble beginnings. And as you said, you and I met years ago. I
Right.
was still teaching at a university in the Dallas area. And
Yeah.
that's how we came into contact with each other. And you know what? I don't know if I've ever told you, but it is probably because of you and maybe a few others that I really decided that I wanted to work with therapists to teach them how to do a private practice. I'm sure it is probably because of my encounters with you and a few others that made me think, maybe I should start teaching what I went through so that they don't have to avoid these mistakes. And so thank you for
No.
being in my path
Yeah.
to really help me understand how I could show up as a better version of myself in the field outside of being a therapist or an educator. And so I'm going to go back to when you were still working with your dependent license.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back there
I don't even
because
remember that. It seems like it just was fast forwarded in here.
you don't want to remember that. Let's just say you don't want to remember that.
There was a time that I wasn't licensed. What?
And I think this is when I had to practice in Grand Prairie. Yeah, right.
Yes.
I was in Grand
Yeah.
Prairie. So yeah, this was
Gosh.
2009, 10, way early back then in Grand Prairie. And so you were working on your dependent hours and you were working in the school district full time, right? 20 years, hadn't had 20 years then, but you were still working full time in the school district, right?
I
Uh,
was.
doing the hours, seeing clients. But even then, you knew that you weren't going to stay in the school system. But even then, you knew you didn't want to work for somebody else. Tell me about how did you know that even early back then?
Well, see how I'm set up. This goes back to childhood. I do play well with others. However, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So I wanted to make things better. Even when I was coaching, I wanted the athlete to be their whole self. And team building was my jam. So I love to do things that would help them connect to themselves. Starts with you, period. Anything that you want changes in, it starts with you. No one else can bring that to you. So that's kind of how I had that spirit of like, but this isn't my only stop. Yes, individually, I can help people find that for themselves. But then it was like, but I like what Dr. Guy's doing, because, she's teaching me. And so I think of iron sharpening iron. And so it was as you were learning, I was learning. So that's why I was like, everywhere you go, I was like, so where are you going? Oh, okay, me too. You what? Oh, the lease is out. Okay, me too. Let's go. Let's do this,
You
right?
did. Said, where you going? I'm going. And you did that. What we do? 3 offices or was it 2?
Yeah. It was there was one in Grand Prairie, the very first one. I think I maybe did maybe one client there, and then we moved to the other building on 303
Hampton.
Pioneer, and
Oh,
then I was there
then
in Grand Prairie. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the
man. I told you,
303.
you were like, so I'm thinking about, okay, me too, whatever. I'm jumping. Yes, me
I'm
too.
going. I'm going. So what made you, because we have definitely, it's been a long journey, right? Like I've literally seen you move from a graduate student to, back then they were LPC interns, from an LPC intern to an LPC, from an LPC to an LPCS, right? Like we have been on this journey for a very long time together. But what made you say, hey, you know what, Dr. God, I think I'm gonna follow you over here? Because I didn't know what I was doing, right? Like it was new to me, right? Now, if you asked me to write a treatment plan, if you asked me to write a course curriculum for a course, I got you. But back then, that whole private practice, I was like, okay, I'm figuring this thing out as I go. So what made you say, okay, well, where we going? What we doing?
It was your leadership style, and it was good to see it. It was, and I think it was a self-reflection of, you know what, if you need something, you need to ask people for help. And we are not always very good at that. And so when I saw you grinding, if you didn't know, you were going to figure it out, and I respected that, because it was like, wow, this, and you meant it. You were wholeheartedly open to hearing it, receiving, like, you know what, I may not know, but let me get back to you on that. And you were figuring things out. You had this all in your mind. I saw it, and you were determined. And it was like in Grand Prairie, we spent some evenings together, because of course I was coming after work and you're a night owl. So you were already there getting ready. And so it was like the look in your eye, the passion that you had, when you were teaching us as interns, you had a passion. And so I too saw it, and I was like, I see your vision. I love that. And I want that too. And so it was just so enriching to flip that switch when it was like, well, when it's my time, you're still not going nowhere. Because even when I got my S, it was like, okay, where are you going? Okay, me too. So we were two supervisors working in DeSoto, together.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you said two supervisors working together. At no point, and maybe you can speak to this because I don't know, but I believe as a supervisor or as a coach or as a professor, in any of my roles that I just described, I am always attempting to give you what I have, right? Like at no point do I think, well, you can't get that because I don't want you to become my competition. So I'm just going to give you a little sprinkle of this and hold the rest of this to myself. Like in my head, that's what I think I do, but that could be wrong, right? Because that's my own head. I could be completely irrational as all outdoors. So as someone who has been with me 15 years, is that accurate? Like, am I delusional and thinking that that's what I do?
In your head, you might have said it, but you never expressed that out loud of like, I'm not going to give you everything because this is mine. I don't think you left anything on the table. I think it was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. And I was like, okay, let's figure it out. I'll figure out how it's going to work and how it's going to look for me. But one of the things that I want to point out is you helped me develop my authenticity during this. So it wasn't like a competition here. Is I have a different niche area than you. And the way I do it's going to be different, but you allowed me to do that. So I felt completely safe in that kind of environment. It wasn't a competition because you wanted me to find my best self.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Like
I didn't feel it.
Even today, going back to your re-grand opening, because it wasn't the opening, but it was the re-grand opening last year of Bridges to Crossroads, the IOP. Just being there at the ribbon cutting was like, oh, this makes me so teary-eyed because I'm so happy to see you walking in your purpose and doing what brings you joy in a way that is unique to you and specific to your area of expertise. And so I was so excited to be there. So thank you for just even inviting me to share that moment with you. But I know it wasn't easy getting there. So
No.
when you went from, he had an independent license, now you have you had your dependent license, now you have an independent license. You had to make some decisions, right? School was
Yeah.
paying way more than any other community-based agency or mental health. Like, that's just real talk, right? We know that the
Yeah.
average LPC in the state of Texas is making either 49,000 on the low end and 60,000 on the high end. So
Wow.
the full-time position that you had in the school was paying more. So you had to make a decision. Now I have this independent license. What do I do with it? You sat with that part-time. You was in private practice for part-time. What was going on in your mind during that time? And then what shifted when you said, okay, I'm about to make this leap and do full-time?
Well, that's interesting because I got a lot of my clinical with my LPC. So I worked at a couple of hospitals locally, doing a couple of different things, just seeing how it would work. So trying to kind of, just test the waters, because I knew how much it was doing. And of course, at that point, I had already had, you know, 10, 15 years easy in teaching at that point. And well, not really teaching, but just in the education alone, because I did do special ed counseling in the school system. So I wasn't just teaching or coaching, I was actually doing special ed counseling. So at that time, I was moonlighting and, trying to work the private practice with my independent license, working at some hospitals, and then, being met with some ethical concerns when you're there. I did some of I guess it's mobile assessments, going to different hospitals and assessing the people in ER for higher level of care, meaning going into an intensive treatment program. Um, and I felt there was some type of disconnect. There was an ethical issue that I couldn't get past. And so I had to really sit with myself and say, okay, is this what you want to do? Because I could probably make more, you know, but still it was not going to be the salary that I was making. So I continued to do moonlight. But then when you started developing, your programming as a supervisor for, with your interns and coaching interns, and you were broadening that and how that looked. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do something else because, I can't take any more clients. Outside of coming and seeing them at 5 to 9 at night, that was a late night. That's a late day. That's all day. And that was great for play money to do extra stuff, but it really wasn't fulfilling because then I was burning the candle at both ends. And if I can't show up for myself, I can't show up for my clients. So that's when I noticed a change. I was feeling like, oh, here we go. We got this client here. Oh, I know we're going to be here and I'm going to zone out, whatever. And this is in person. So, there is nothing else that you could do besides sit with that person and be with them. And my mind was somewhere else because I was tired. I was wearing myself out. So I had to make the decision. I got to move my way out of this. So eventually I left, I do believe in 2000, my son graduated in 14. I think in 14 is when I let school district go. 14. Yeah.
2014. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
because I was
was
not being able to give to my clients.
So it was the feeling of just being burnt out and exhausted from kind of spinning your wheels at this full-time, moonlighting at the psychiatric hospital, seeing these clients part-time. And even though you knew that one wasn't hitting the ideal salary that you wanted, you were in all three of them for a minute, right? And so finally it was the onset of just being burnt out that was your catalyst to say, I probably need to just do this full-time, this private practice full-time. So you left the school in 2014. Was that a scary moment for you?
Oh, heck yeah. Okay. Totally. Because not only was I just a practitioner, clinician, private practice therapist at the time, I was also a mom of a kid in high school and a whole wife to somebody.
Mhm.
So where was I in that equation? Absolutely nowhere. So I did have to do something different. And so I was so afraid of what if this doesn't work out? So I have not been a person that will harbor that for a long time. I'm just a kind of get in there and jump and do it. I'm, not the fear of failing, but it was like the fear of eating.
Mm.
I'm
Come
becoming
on, Coach C. Say that again. Say that again, Coach C.
not failing, but starving. I had to feed my family. I had to feed me. I do have a lifestyle that I was accustomed to, but it was like, hey guys, this is something has to do better than what I'm doing. I knew there was something else, and I wasn't going to be able to see it by holding on to it. I kind of go with an old saying is like you can't ride two horses with one ass. So
Mm.
I had to figure out
Oh, that's a good one
which
on
one.
me, Coach C.
Sorry, I can't cuss on here. My bad.
Oh, no, you fine.
But too late now. But so I had to make a decision, and I knew that my passion was with my clientele. And then when I got my S, I found an even brighter vision there because you
Mhm.
were doing it with me, and I wanted to give my associates, now associates, what I've learned from you, finding their own
Mhm.
passion. So I said, I'm going to have to up my ante with my interns and
Right.
associates.
Back
And
then they were
so,
interns.
yeah, back when they were interns. And so I started, branching into that and opened up my cohort from one of my first cohorts. And so I started
So,
doing supervision, which helped.
so when you started, there was definitely a huge amount of fear to just take that leap of faith to go from I'm dabbling in all these different things to solely focus on building the practice. Do you
Mhm.
remember the time frame or around the ballpark, how long it took you to build up the caseload that you felt comfortable with? Like, was it years, months?
Well, and I'm sure that you have, and you shared it with me, and I'm sure that it's broadened since we talked about it when trying to get that full caseload. So
Mhm.
you had given me a formula of okay, if you need this much, then how many clients are you needing to see? And so I had to start doing that a lot different, and that's that business part that I didn't know because I'm moonlighting. So I knew where that check was coming. It was going to come in hot
Right.
and heavy. I didn't have to really worry about much, and that whole business model had not taken hold because I didn't have to
Mhm.
until I left the school. And so once I did, it was like, oh, crap. And you were like, oh, yeah, you remember as an intern when I told you about you need to find out how many clients you need so you can make X, Y, Z? And I was like, dang it, yeah. So I went and dug that up and I was like, oh, okay. So I did go back and know how many people I needed. So that meant I needed to get on my grind. That meant I needed to figure out marketing tools. That meant I needed to, get my face in front of more people. I had connections with the school, so I did put myself out there to schools a little bit more. So over the time that I dropped completely everything besides practice and supervision to get to the point of having a full schedule probably didn't wasn't but about 3 to 6 months
I
because
was
I
gonna
was
say, I
that was
don't think
my
it was a year.
no, absolutely not, because it probably was shorter than that because I had more time because
Mhm.
wasn't in school for 8 hours and I had to make that money. So it was one of those situations where it was like you're either gonna make it or you're gonna be starving. So I got on my hustle. And of course, being in a practice where there was more than just me, it was a great referral source. People walked around there all the time and through there and by there. And so it just started to grow. And
Mhm.
any trickle down that you had that I'd hear you talk about or you shared with me, I was on it and I used it and I applied it. So it didn't take long for me to get a full practice, but I had to apply it because they weren't just going to come knocking on my door.
Yeah, because I definitely remember you being full pretty quickly because, as you know, I have a number. Like this, the number. That's how many people I'm gonna see. This it now, right? Because I've learned boundaries and I learned how to create a better work-life balance than I did when I first started. So I would quickly be like, I can't see this client. You want this client? And then you started saying, well, I'm full, right? And so then it had to go to somebody else that was in the group. And so I do know that it happened very quickly, that because you were doing the work, and you mentioned marketing. So coming from a clinical background, clinical training, what was it about marketing that you had to learn? Because I know for me, it was a whole new world trying to figure out. So I got to get clients. You mean they just don't walk in the door because I'm here, right? Like, because that's how they make it seem in school, right? Like, oh, you
Yeah,
go do
they
this.
do.
Like, that's not how it is in real life. So for you,
No,
what was that piece about marketing that you had to learn?
everything, everything, and I find it really unique because it was it was one of the things that I was like, I am not great here. This is not my jam. My best referrals sources were from clients that told other people that they know. And it just was like, and I was so grateful for that. That was, answered prayers, of like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Hopefully I'm helping. I hadn't really got into writing a curriculum or programming, really. I was just trying to make that mark, get that number. But it was everything. And at the time, if you remember, we weren't doing therapy virtually.
No, absolutely not. It was face to face, ma'am. These long hours that we was talking about, seeing your last client at 9 o'clock, that was face to face in your office. We didn't have no
Yeah.
virtual therapy.
So I'm not even trying to say that I was a good marketer back then. I just knew that I had to figure out, social media, not a big presence there either. I was very private at the time, and that was something I had to work through myself with my own life coaching and therapy. But then I had to turn it on. I was like, girl, you got to swim or die. What are we doing? And so it was learning how to market. When you had something that you would share with me, that you'd have some opportunities to speak. I'd use that. And then as it just kind of grew and grew and grew, to where I had some pretty steady events. People knew where we were. They knew what I was doing. And they knew what I was about. Well, then hold the phone. I don't think I became a really good marketer or even partially good. I'm not even gonna be good. I'm gonna say adequate. Um, hey, COVID did a number on me because before that I was like, absolutely not. I'm not seeing anybody virtually. And I was like,
Mm,
why would I do that? COVID said, watch this, girl. You fixing to see all your clients virtually. So
mhm.
I had to learn. And so getting on Facebook Live, getting on IG Live, TikTok, everything, Twitter, all that, it was, I had to jump on. It was like they were
Mhm.
already going. And so I was like, let me jump in where I can. And it has been very beneficial. And knowing every week we have probably about a good 5 to 10 calls here, just on just people alone, and it just circulates and circulates. But it wasn't what I wanted to do at first. But now it's just kind of like, okay, let me find the model that works for me 2 or 3 times a week. That's all y'all getting. Because
Mm.
otherwise I need to renew. And that is even enough to generate and put yourself out there so people know that you're there. And and if not you, because I have a certain number now, because I have actually almost more interns, or excuse me, associates, than I do clientele, because
Mhm.
this is where I wanted to put my roots down as an associate academy, if you will, a learning school where the associates will come in. They're going to get hours, they're going to get coaching, they're going to get clients in front of them, and they'll know business. So that was another avenue, another stream of income that has been beneficial in actually creating this program for them. So that's kind of how I got here to the marketing piece. And you got to put it out there somewhere, emails and all that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're talking about how does someone who's in private practice, a therapist, scale their practice so that their immediate go-to doesn't necessarily mean you have to jump to charging your clients 250 an hour, which I'm not knocking that by no means. I'm just saying we're talking about other ways in which you can still scale your practice. And so you started as a solo practitioner, then you move to that model of which one came first, the group or the S? I think the S came
It,
first.
the S came first. Thankfully, I came before you. You guys out there, the LPCs that have to wait 5 years, I think now.
Uh-huh.
I got in at 2, and so it was get up there,
Cool.
go, and then group. So once I got my S, it was like group, and then now it's group kind of consolidated on a whole nother level through a IOP. So that was kind of the trajectory that I took. But now the caveat is that now associates can have their own practice.
They sure
And
can in the state of Texas.
yes, in the state of Texas. And so I do have a couple of associates that have done that. And the feedback that I get, it ain't easy.
Huh.
And they're like, this is a lot. Yes, it is, and I don't feel that I would have been equipped without you at all. And I would no, it was a good progression. It had a good pace to it. But as an associate, you're going all the way out to, what am I
And you're
doing? I
seeing
got
going
to get on
by
my time.
yourself.
Yeah. And so you don't get to be on panels, insurance panels. So that means that, as a practitioner, you can't take any insurances. So it's all cash.
Mm-hmm.
So the interest to people in is to charge minimally.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about if I would have started out as an associate or if I started out as an LPC fully licensed, and wanted to just take only cash pay clients, well, how long would that take? To make sure that I'm getting a good amount so I can live. So that takes a lot. So trying to figure out your niche area, getting a coach, getting, those type of things for marketing in place to me was very vital and important. I needed that lifeline to get me to where I am now. I needed that cushion.
Absolutely. Now, without talking numbers, but we're gonna talk numbers, right? General
Mhm.
numbers. When therapists think about the ones who do want to go into private practice, obviously there are several rewards, right? And one of those rewards and gains is a monetary. I just said in
Yes.
Texas, the average salary is 49,000 on the low end, 60,000 on the high end, right? So there's the hopes, the possibility that they can reach that, 6-figure mark, right? So
Yes.
in general, for you, did you see the difference in going from a solo practitioner model, group, IOP?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. Like I was saying, is like you start with a minimum scaled and you're seeing, you know, 30 clients in a week just so you can make what you need to be or feel like you're in that space of being
Comfortable.
able to take care of things comfortable. um Definitely going with a group and having your group, getting on insurance panels, being able to have the ability to bring in more clientele, more clients is so important. And then being able to have an IOP where even more people are going to be here. They're going to be here on a couple of weekly basis, because if we're going to do intensive outpatient, it's no less than 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So just thinking of the clients that you're seeing. So for each of those segments of time that they are here, you're getting paid. And then it's on a group portion.
So
So if you have 5 to
let's
6
break
people.
let's break that down. It's a
Okay.
group model.
Hmm.
IOP. Are you guys doing 3 days or 5 days?
We do 3 to 5 days, depending on how their assessment looks,
All right.
individualized.
So the possibility of 3 to 5 days. This is a
Hmm.
group modality. one client reimbursement rate through the insurance company for that person for an IOP looks like?
Per day, depending on what it is and which insurance company. Let's say as an average of $150 per day, and that's just one
Client.
person.
And that's just one
One,
person. This is a group
yes,
model. This is
yes,
3
ma'am.
to 5 times a week. I am
Yes,
trying
ma'am.
to give perspective
Yes, ma'am.
for the
And
therapist
I don't take over
who
10. I don't take over 10 clients
and you
per.
don't take over to the group. Hey, Dr. Pickens, trying to give perspective in we're talking about scaling your practice and not feeling like you have to raise the cost per session, but there are other things that you can do, i.e., the group modality model, the supervisor component. But when you want to talk about game changer for a practice, it's the IOP market. So maybe 150, depending on the insurance company reimbursement, 6 to 10 people in a group, 3 to 5 times a week. I'm not good at math, but I know them numbers is good.
It feels nice. It feels comfortable.
She said
But
it feels comfortable.
and it's good to have that help because once again, as the director, I'm not always hosting those groups. Now I do because I like to be in there. I like to make sure that I am, being supportive of staff and being supportive of the clientele. I like to be in my office is right in the front, so people will see me from time to time. I want them to know that this is not just a business model for me. I want it to be a real safe space for clients. I mean, there's more than, the monetary will come. That is no doubt for me. However, adding value to people's lives, guess what that also presents for you? More clients. Because when they tell someone that, hey, you know what, I went over here to purchase to Crossroads and they really heard me. They really felt me. We didn't have like 20 in a group for outpatient. It was only 6 of us. And, I was able to go to work and I didn't feel bad about, I didn't have the money to pay because I could go to work. And that's another thing you have to think of. The client's like, well, I don't have enough for my copay. Oh, because they're working and, on a minimum basis, and it's transitioning them back to work. So they're getting a double bonus here. They're going to get to work, they're going to get the treatment that they need, and then they're going to tell somebody else, and they're going to tell somebody else. And then each week, it keeps getting better. So
And not only does your program show how you can provide quality services where you're investing back into the clients that you serve, but one of the things that you've been able to do is decrease the amount of clients that you see one-on-one to open up the opportunity to do some other things. Is that correct, Coach C?
That's correct. That's correct. It gives me lots of space and time to coach and teach, and I like to do that. Thus, I was been in education forever, forever student.
So that this model of scaling works if you work it.
If you work it,
And let's say for someone, if they were interested in learning how to create an IOP, is that something that you, Coach C, could walk them through?
it is absolutely. It is definitely strategic. I had to learn it, and it's really funny because some of my you had mentioned earlier that you didn't know exactly always what you were doing, but you were forever moving, and I love that. And it was like, hey, have you thought about this? And we talk about it. Some of my associates that I have now, because they were in the process of me moving from just group to IOP, they got to see how the sausage was made, and when we and so when we underwent our survey for my joint commission, which they come in, they did it's a 2-day top to bottom total overhaul of process, procedures, client safety, HIPAA, all that. Your staff training, so HR, your billing departments, your safety, all that. So they learned a lot about that because there was some trainings that, of course, that I was like, oh crap, I got to do this training for them. And so we have to get it in. And now they know how to do stuff. So yeah, absolutely, I know how. And if you guys have ever, which I do recommend, if you're gonna do this, do it right. Go all the way. Don't stop. You know, you may feel comfortable, but where you are, but we're always in a state of growth and progress. There's going to be a point where you be like, okay, this space is too small, because it's just because if you're doing it well, and where you are learning that this is more than just a business, this is your livelihood, then you're going to do it right. And you want clients to come back. Well, not the ones that you take their IOP, but
You want them to refer clients to
you want to rotate them around. But you want to do it right and do it well. So any type of accommodation, accreditation that you would need to run a business or a practice, seek it out. It makes you the authority.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you the
So,
authority of where you are.
but before we wrap up, you have something interesting that is getting ready to take place. What is that?
So in my now able part-time, I'm doing a coaching event for women. We are doing an intimate dine and learn experience. So if there's a VIP package that you'll get an in-person walkthrough with a chef to show you how to add more vegetables and fruits to your diet. And so the premise is it's a hashtag choose you event. I kind of went with that. And I'm going to be teaching women how to feed your mind, body, and soul. It's a three-parter. It's going to be like I call it a day treat instead of a retreat, because it's not going to be overnight, not yet, but we're going to be working on that for later in the year. But for 3 hours, they're going to get this transformational event where they can connect with other women, and they will be able to learn how to heal, because
Mm.
sometimes we don't take the time to even sit with our thoughts. But this is time out of your day where you, as women, will be able to learn a three-step approach on how to feed your mind, how to feed your body with good foods, and how to feed your soul with grace. And that's one of my acronyms that I use to help people get through that healing process. So that's going to be happening March the 18th. And we will also have a virtual that you can watch via Zoom, and you'll be able to watch all of the food preparation. She's going to talk to you guys about, she's a chef, and she's going to talk to you guys about how to eat to feed that body. Because sometimes we just eat for comfort, and and that doesn't help. It's problematic. So she's going to teach us how to choose foods that are good for us and make us feel better. And then you'll be able to get to that healing piece of the soul and the mind.
Look here, let me tell you how when you know who you're supposed to work with in life as a coach, a mentor, there is an alignment that is kismic, that you don't even have to be in the same room with that person. You're like, why that sound like me? Why, like, we on the same page. Now, before I forget, I did just post the link for those of you that want to register. So grab that link. It is in the comment section. But I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh, she is on point. So coming up, my trainer and I are doing a fit retreat that combines workout, healthy eating, and improving the mindset. I haven't
Yes.
talked to you. I had no idea what you were doing, but yet here we are on the same page, right? Hey, G Money, on
I
the same
love
page, because we know that this healthcare is holistic, right? It's all
it.
about mind, body, soul, and spirit to really help us be better versions of ourselves. So I'm so excited about the things that you are going to continue to do. So for those of you that do not know me, if you just kind of caught the ends of it, I am Dr. Tanisha Guy. I've had the opportunity today to interview Coach C, who is actually one of the women who I give credit for, who really moved me in this direction over 10 years ago to start helping therapists build private practices. Look here, when I tell y'all I help therapists fire their bosses, I wasn't lying. Not only do I help therapists fire their bosses, but I'm going to help you figure out how to get the bag. Because it ain't about the bag, but it's real nice when you can get the bag, is what I'm saying.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So,
And it
Coach
feels
C,
good.
it feels right when you don't have to work as hard and know that your bills and your family is being taken care of. But not only that, you're creating a legacy. What? Like, I can
Mhm.
help people transform their lives, get empowered, do healing, and also take care of my family in the process of doing that. It is one of the most rewarding feelings in the world. But look here, you can't do it by yourself. As
Nope.
therapists, we know every therapist needs a therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
As a coach who's in this realm, I have a coach. I can't be out here coaching people and not have my own coach. If you are a therapist and you are starting a business, you are now a business owner. You need a business coach. You need to align yourself with somebody who's been where you were trying to go. That is so essential, you guys. And I'm not saying it just because that is what I do. I'm saying it because I know that is what helps us grow and be more successful in the things that we want to do. So, with that being said, Coach C, I am so thankful that you have given me this hour of your time. I will let you get back to running your corporation over there and changing people's lives. And I'll see you on the other side of social media land real soon.
You will. You will. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And you take care, okay?
Bye-bye.
Right.
So, you guys, for those of you that tuned in, thank you so much for catching this live. I am going to have more of these coming up. Why? Because I've helped a lot of women literally fire their bosses. And I need you to see these women because they are doing some amazing and outstanding things in this profession. It is so easy as a licensed professional counselor to go to school and to have tunnel vision and to think that the only thing that you can do is work for somebody else. That is not the case. There are some LPCs, LMFTs, licensed clinical social workers doing some things that I never even considered doing when I first graduated. So if you're on that end and you are new in this profession, these are the people you need to tap into. Don't waste your time spinning your wheels doing something that you don't have to do because you think that is the only thing that you can do. As someone who's been practicing for 22 years, teaching for 17 years, still teaching in graduate programs, I students every day show up in my classes and say, yeah, I'm gonna go work for somebody else. And they say that because they don't know what else they can do, or they think they cannot do it because no one has told them they can. So if you are watching this live or you catch the replay of this and you want to know if I can help you fire your boss, book a discovery call with me. The link will be in the comments. I look forward to seeing you because, again, I help therapists fire their bosses. I'm just saying, everybody have a great week, and I'll be back next week with another therapist who fired her boss. Bye bye.